As you can see, when editors are configuring a landing page, they see some buttons at the bottom of the screen, and if they hit edit, they will see all the regions that are available on that particular page. And the regions can change depending on the layout that you've selected. So if you click on change layout at the bottom, you can see what the current layout is, and your theme can have multiple layouts. Here you can see we've divided the layouts based on brands, and we'll just go with the home page layout for auto news for this demo. And then you can add components, and you can see that the components can be divided into different categories so that it's easier to find uh, the right component for a particular type of page. For the demo, we'll add an existing component that has already been set up from the custom category. This is a component which is called the homepage featured component. So once you add a component, or if you're creating a new component, the first screen that you'll see is where you can select different view modes. And view modes are essentially different templates that you can attach to your component and control how they look on the front end. So if here we've selected the in listing view mode for this component, and you can see it's pulling in stories and putting them in a 2 column layout. And you can also drag and drop the component into different regions. So here I'm moving the component from the top 12 column region to an 8 column region. So you can move your components around and set your page up, and stack different components in a particular region. The next thing that you'll see while configuring the component is a couple of buttons on the top right. So if I hit the gear icon, I go back to the view mode screen, and I'll just select another layout view mode to show how different front end treatments can be given to the same component. So you can see the same featured component with the same set of stories now in this full view mode only shows the first story, and the remaining stories are hidden. If I select another view mode, for example, the featured story to 1, this is similar to the first view mode that we saw for this component. It shows the stories in 2 columns, but here you see that the first story is emphasized more and has a larger image treatment. Apart from the view modes, if you hit the pencil icon on the top right, you can see the actual fields where you can configure what content shows on a particular component. In this component, you can see there are fields, look ahead fields, where you can search articles by title and select the featured articles and the listing articles that go below it. Uh, Different components will have different set of fields depending on what what is the use case that they fulfill. This is a component that is used on the homepage typically on this platform, and here editors typically add stories manually. So that's why you see look ahead fields for both the featured story and the rest of the stories. So once you finalize the stories that should appear in this component, and you've selected the view mode that you want to save, you can save the page from the bottom, and the component is added to the landing page. The component that we saw, the editors had to manually select articles. But in this case, as you can see, this particular component shows a long list of stories. So it has a few stories at the top which are featured, and then it has more stories below the featured section, and then followed by a load more button. So let's take a look at what happens when we click on the pencil icon for this particular component. As you can see, the set of fields here are different from what we saw in the first video. So in this case, the editors can actually select the content type. So they can say whether they want to show articles, photo galleries, videos. Uh, so if I just select photo gallery and update this, you can see the listing has updated. Now it's only showing photo galleries. And if I go back and edit the component again, this time I'll select videos and hit update. You'll see now the listing has updated and it's only showing videos. Now let's take a look at how it's pulling in the content. So as you can see, you can we've defined 3 categories here and 2 topics. So any content that is tagged with either these topics or categories shows up on this page. And apart from the category and topic, there's also an option to show the summary. So you can show or hide the summary depending on how you want to configure the component. But you can see this is a different kind of component where editors are not manually selecting stories, but they're defining the taxonomy terms that will drive what content shows up, and they can also choose if they want to filter the content by a particular content type.
So the objective of building this component is to give content editors the ability to choose content to be displayed as pick of the day and the ability to use the same data across different components without configuring the same at multiple places. So how we achieved it? Let's see it in action. So what you can see is a slider which is our pick of the day component with three different data items linked to their respective pages. When you edit the penalizer at the bottom of the page, you will see a small gear icon pops up. So this is where we can do our front end or minor configuration changes to our component. So there are multiple options you can see as pick of the date, description, title, items per block, regions. This is all the front end things that you can configure for a block. So as you can see here, 3 is the default settings for display number of items. So let's go with 5. And there are multiple regions where you can place this block. Let's click hit on update. So since we have selected a new number set as 5 instead of 3, you will see 5 components being popped up in a slider. So where this content is coming from? So you will see a small edit icon at the right corner. When you hit it, you will see a small edit subqueue option. So it will directly take you to the subqueue from where the data is actually coming from. You will see a couple of items being listed here. So these are actually the nodes which are currently in the system. You can add as many items as you want here in this queue. So the items are listed in such a way that the companies have their respective articles. So when you search for a company, it will list down all the articles linked to that company name. So we can add as many items as you want here. So let's search Reebok. So these are all the articles that are in the system with the company tagged as Reebok. So let's go with Reebok, the promise keeper. Since we're displaying only the top 5 elements from this list, we have to place a component where we can actually see the results on the front end. So we are placing it at the second place. In this way, you can even arrange the items as you like. Then hit the save button, will be redirected to our actual page, and it says the entity subqueue pick of the day has been updated, and you will see the second item, the promise keeper, as the second in the list. So this is a single use case of the pick of the day. The pick of the day component has been used at several other places, like for the REST export and for different components which have different size limitations, different positions, and how it is displayed.